Welcome to Black Health, a weekly talk show discussing medical issues afflicting and impacting the Black South Florida community. Now introducing our host, Dr. Michelle Kirwan Blythewood.
Greetings. Did you know that according to the 2017-2018 data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, that nearly 1 in 3 adults, that's 30%, are overweight, 42.4% have obesity, and almost 1 in 11 adults have severe obesity. Thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome to Black Health, a platform to discuss illnesses affecting the Black community. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Kirwan Blythewood. I'm a board-certified pediatrician and the Chief Medical Officer at the Pediatric and Family Health and Wellness Center in Miami Gardens, Florida. And today we are talking about obesity and weight loss with Dr. Josya Charles Laurent. Dr. Josya, welcome to Black Health.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you. I'm going to give a quick introduction. Dr. Josya Goni Charles Laurent is a board-certified family physician. She obtained her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from the Johns Hopkins University, a master's degree in biomedical science from Barry University, attended Drexel University College of Medicine for medical school, and completed her family practice residency at Abington Memorial Hospital in Philadelphia. She was also an assistant professor at Florida International University College of Medicine and is now a family medicine physician at CHI Community Health of South Florida. Again, welcome, Dr. Josya. So we're going to jump right in. Why did you think that this was an important topic to discuss on Black Health today?
It's an important topic because it literally affects almost everybody every single day. In the clinic, even if someone's coming in for like a stubbed toe, somehow the conversation gets into their weight or the weight of their family member of their child. So it's a conversation that comes up every single day. It affects all of us in some kind of way. I would say even more so than some of our typical heavy hitters, diabetes and hypertension, which can be complications of obesity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How would you define obesity?
I would define, that's a great question because there's the official textbook answers regarding the BMI scale. And we've come to learn that that's actually not completely accurate because they didn't include all kinds of ethnicities and backgrounds into that. But if we're going to stick to the textbook answer for now, it's really a balance of proportions between the height and the weight of someone. And if they are over a certain amount per the calculation, they're either considered overweight or more so obese.
Yes, I run into that same problem when I am looking at a child. As a pediatrician, I only see children looking at a child, and I'm having to tell the parent that the child is obese. And I'm looking at them, and it's just a thick child. It's their body style, their body habitus. And some of them, I'm looking at them, and I'm like, well, technically they're obese, but and if they have muscle mass, a lot of muscle, some of these athletes come up as obese. So it is difficult to follow the BMI chart, but it is sort of what we still are going by to some extent. What are some of the primary causes of obesity, particularly within the Black community?
I think that some of the it's multifaceted. I think one of the main things is I would say the two number one things are going to be the food that we're eating as well as generational trauma and stress. And the reason I highlight those two is because starting with the food, if you are living in a food desert or you have limited access to food, or even when you have access, but you're used to grandma's cooking, which is rich and delicious, your food choices might ultimately put on those extra pounds that eventually lead to obesity. And the reason I bring up the generational trauma and the stress, the post-traumatic slave disorder, if you will, that type of PTSD and so on, where, our genes have been imprinted on to be in a stressful state. And when you're stressful, you have cortisol levels, you have epinephrine levels that are at all-time highs, and it makes it hard for the body to get out of the fat storage mode into the fat burning mode. So one of the things I talk about with my patients is how to relax. If you were used to, like I said, grandma, your parents say, hey, you got to get up, you got to keep working. And there's this, unspoken fear of if we stop moving, we're going to get punished. And you're constantly go, 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 then your body's going to hold on to all the energy because it doesn't know when there's time to relax and digest and to use the energy that's being stored.
So you touched on this a little bit, but how do genetic, environmental, socioeconomic factors contribute to obesity? You briefly mentioned food desert. So how do those things contribute to
They
obesity?
contribute in such huge ways. They're almost the unspoken factors that are in play. So when you look, I'm glad you have, this chart set up here. When you look at the prevalence, especially among, Blacks and how it's been high, it's been I mean, look at this is generations, not just decades. As this shows, this only shows for 1 year, quick snapshot. But when you have, depending on redlining, districting, being told where you could live, again, food deserts. When urban planning is done, usually it's what can um, you look at what are the stores within a 2-mile radius, which is considered a walking radius. Do you have a convenience store in your neighborhood or do you have a Whole Foods? Do you have Aldi's, or do you have, the local produce truck? So you have that at play. You have also based on economics, depending on the kind of work you're able to get, what you can afford. And if you're working, especially here in South Florida, if you're working 2 jobs or you're working a 12-hour shift, you don't have time to be meal planning or even think of that luxury. You're going to grab and go with whatever's available to you. So you have so many factors in play. And it's more than just the old way of thinking that someone just, quote, eating too much or they, quote, can't control themselves. No, there's a lot of external factors that have a role in this too.
Yeah. And, even I'm glad you brought up about food deserts and the lack of a Whole Foods. Not only the lack of a Whole Foods or a fresh market or, something with fresher produce, but there's an abundance of fast food restaurants in certain communities. There's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King. So there's access to all these unhealthy foods that obviously contribute to weight and also safety. Sometimes there's not a safe place to walk and just get exercise, and gym memberships might be excessive for some or out of reach for some. So there are a lot of factors, like you're saying that contribute. What are some of the common misconceptions about obesity that you encounter in your practice?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on one of them, which is the idea that someone just can't stop eating or they can't control themselves. So that it has to be an issue of willpower in order to then reverse obesity. Well, if I just grit my teeth and scrunch my face hard enough, I'm going to be able to lose the weight, and that actually backfires. So the idea that, oh, this person's been lazy or they just been overeating or they just don't care about themselves, which is usually far from the truth. They really do care about themselves. They really do want to shed the weight. And it's not to fit a societal image, it's just to feel good in their body and to have that body acceptance to walk and not have back pains and neck pains and knee pains. So I think the idea of the lack of willpower is one of the biggest things I see. And when as I get into conversations with folks and really help unpack that, they usually leave the room relieved and like actually hopeful that they can actually lose the weight once and for all.
Well, good. You mentioned back pain and neck pain and so on. So it actually leads me to my next question. What are the major health risks associated with obesity?
Yeah, so going back to some of the things that cause it, right? If you're in a constant state of stress and the body's becoming resistant to insulin, you're holding on to it. Over time, that can lead to high blood pressure because the body again is in a state of stress. It thinks a tiger is chasing it. You have trouble with sleeping. Sleep apnea can happen just from having extra tissue around the neck. And so there's trouble that with sleeping that can happen. It also can affect the mind in terms of a sense of depression, not a full on can't get out of bed depression, but a functional depressed, like, okay, I just feel down. I don't feel up to doing things. You go ahead. I'll meet up with you guys next time. So you have that at play as well. And then you have, other derangements of the body. So with, like I said, insulin resistance leading to diabetes and its own set of complications too. Those are some of the main things we tend to see. And then you even get with our very, very obese patients where you get skin infections happening because they just can't reach those areas to clean them properly. And again, with the body being stressed, it actually suppresses the immune system. It makes them more likely to pick up different kinds of illnesses. So your colds, your flus, that nail fungus that just showed up, those chronic yeast infections. So a lot of those things can happen as a result of obesity.
Thank you. Dr. Joseph, we do need to take a quick commercial break. So you are watching Black Health. Black Health is brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We are talking about obesity and weight loss with Dr. Josya Charles Laurent.
There are many ways the cancer journey can make you feel. But when you're surrounded by supportive experts that deeply care, you'll see that this personalized journey wasn't just designed to make you feel better. At Baptist Health Cancer Care, we designed every aspect of it around research to make you feel well. Welcome to Breakthrough Cancer Care.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
Welcome back. You are watching Black Health, brought to you by the Health Foundation of South Florida, and we are talking about obesity with Dr. Josya. Dr. Josya, let's talk a little bit about weight loss. What are some, and I'm not going to start as a typical physician with medications. Let's start with some natural methods for weight loss that you might recommend for your patients.
I am so glad you said that because a lot of my patients, they are surprised when I start with talking about the natural methods. And I always bring up the conversation as we need to lay the foundation down because even if we do bring in medications, if the foundation's not in place and the minute we stop those medications, the weight will come back. So my typical conversation, I talk about 4 different pillars. The first one is mindset, being willing and wanting to have change. Now, this is different than willpower. So I talked to them about mindfulness techniques, stress reduction techniques, journaling, finding a song they love and moving to that, being able to remove toxic folks and toxic things from their life, to have a opportunity to allow that piece, pursuing therapy, if that means to heal that inner child that's been traumatized that led to putting on those pounds in the first place. So we talk about mindfulness as the first thing. The second thing I talk about is sleep. Because as we mentioned before, if we're not getting enough sleep, the body's in a state of stress and it makes it harder to shed those extra pounds. Then we get into movement. Movement is just fun. Think about when we were kids and we enjoyed recess. Who doesn't love a good recess? So let's embrace that again as adults. So as opposed to saying, I have to work out, you say, I get to work out. I get to move my body. I get to be in the pool. I get to go for a walk. And even if it starts at 5 minutes, that's okay. We want to be our own cheerleader and cheer ourselves on. And then from there, we, add on time and add on intensity. And then the last thing, but also is very foundational, is the food. We choose to fuel our body in a way that supports the body we want in the future. So one example, I tell my patients, say, hey, let's say you tell yourself I'm an athlete. Okay, so now you're an athlete. And this is perfect because, this year is the year of the Olympics. So, you say, okay, what would an Olympian do? What would an athlete do? What would they eat? Or, our favorite example for many folks is LeBron James as a phenomenal athlete. What would he eat? What would he do? And then as we start thinking that way, then those barriers as to what I can eat and what I can't eat, my patients tend to have, those barriers go away because they've now started adopting a new mindset. And then that ties into their food choices. So those 4 pillars are the conversation that we have. And that's without even bringing medication into the picture.
I love that. Are there any particular foods that you do or don't recommend to your patients?
No, food is neutral. There are no such things as good and bad foods. And we want to kind of move away from that because I want patients to start accepting their new body now. And that new person is going to enjoy the ice cream every now and then. They're going to have their empanada every now and then, or their patties, or, so you have to be able to find balance in it all. As we're in the phase of active weight loss, we're going to probably have more on the plate of the vegetables, more on the plate of the unrefined foods, and definitely increasing our water intake. And as we get into balancing, then we see where we can start adding in some of those other things that make life enjoyable.
And what about exercise? Are there any particular exercises that you recommend?
I think for folks who have not exercised at all, any movement is great movement. I do tell I do tell my patients, if they had to pick and choose, let's try to get some weight training on board. So even if it means grabbing 2 bottles of water at home, a gallon of water is about 8 pounds, or they get some weights from their local Walmart and have that and create a little home gym. Having weight training, and it's not emphasized a lot in the medical community, but weight training really gets the body into that fat burning mode. It increases the metabolism. It helps to tone the body. So not just you're losing the extra pounds, but you're getting the shape that you're looking for. You're feeling stronger. You're feeling more alive because you're like, wow, I just lifted 20 pounds. I just did 30. And each time you can increase and change that. So I do recommend weight training. I tell my male patients, I'm like, you're lucky you already have more muscle mass to begin with. So it's not going to take much for that turnaround. And for my ladies, I tell them, you're not going to look like a guy. You're going to actually just tone up more. So yeah, I would say if I had to pick and choose between the two, definitely more towards the weight training than the traditional approach of just cardio. But I am a fan of cardio. I have ran half marathon. I've done quads. So definitely a fan. But I think it's a balancing between the two of those. So yes, the FDA approved version of Ozempic for weight loss is Wegovy, same medication, semaglutide, and there's Mounjaro, that's the treat name for tirzepatide, and those are the 2 main medications that are being currently used for that have been approved for the use of weight loss. Even though yes, Ozempic's also used in its form for diabetes. What I love, it's so multifaceted. It works on the brain. It kind of calms down that food chatter, that craving for different kinds of foods, or gotta have it right now, or gotta eat the whole pizza right now. It also slows down digestion so you get fuller sooner. And then it also helps with using up the fat stores that are already there. So it's been a great medication for my patients. I have one in particular. I joke with her. I'm like, where have you gone? Because it's so much lesser, but she is just loving it. She's wearing her skinny jeans. She just is beaming from ear to ear. She just looks like a brand new person. It's not the look, the physical, but how she feels and the energy she's radiating from that. So things to look out for, and what I tell my patients too with the medications, again, the foundational things we talked about before, mindfulness, exercising, sleep, as well as the eating. But I say because it slows down digestion, we want to make sure we're getting our fiber on board, or if needed, a stool softener so that we're eliminating as well. Because these medications are essentially like doing weight loss surgery without actual surgery. So it slows everything down. We want to make sure that they're taking a multivitamin as well, just to get their nutrients in. Ideally, they're getting it from their food, but if not, we'll make sure they're getting it from their multivitamin. And then also to not skip and try to fast forward the process, like skipping doses. So starting doses 0.25 milligrams. So and you go then to 0.5. So instead of jumping to 0.1, follow the plan. Every 4 weeks, do your current dose before we move up to the next dose. If you try to skip, your body's going to let you know we're not ready for that. And also try to listen to your body, and don't force overeating, because everything slows down, the stomach almost shrinks in a way. If you go ahead and then try to overeat, it can cause nausea or even vomiting of undigested food. But overall, most of my patients have done exceedingly well on it.
Yes, I have a close family member who lost almost 50 pounds on it. And I watched it happen. It was amazing to see the weight loss and to think that surgery is no longer absolutely necessary for weight loss, because the surgery definitely has, side effects. How I'm going to change topics again a little bit. How do cultural attitudes and practices within the Black community influence weight and health? And I know we touched on this a little bit. shovel back
We
to them?
didn't, that's a great question because there's, these things like, oh my gosh, you need to eat, you're wasting away, like I kind of even said it jokingly myself, like I told my friend, oh, you're disappearing, where have you gone? So there's this prevalence of, there's still this feeling of, being thick means you're well fed, means you're nourished, meaning you're cared for. But we don't want to go to the extreme where someone's unhealthy in their weight, and we're supporting that versus supporting them trying to get to what is healthy. I think we've got, especially over the decades, because now like I said, you've seen parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, we literally have generations of overweight and obese folks, so that when they see someone who's up quote normal weight, it's hard to accept that as the norm, right?
Dr. Josya, we actually need to take another quick commercial break. You are watching Black Health, sponsored by the Health Foundation of South Florida. We will be right back.
There are many ways the cancer journey can make you feel. But when you're surrounded by supportive experts that deeply care, you'll see that this personalized journey wasn't just designed to make you feel better. At Baptist Health Cancer Care, we designed every aspect of it around research to make you feel well. Welcome to Breakthrough Cancer Care.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman and Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman and Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
Welcome back to Black Health. We are with Dr. Josya, Charles Laurent, and we are talking about obesity and weight loss. Dr. Josya, what are some of the biggest challenges you find that your patients face when they're trying to lose weight naturally? Do they come to you and complain like, I've been doing everything you said and I'm struggling, or I hit a plateau and I just can't, that just seemed to have, I've lost 5 pounds and I'm just hanging out right here. I can't go any further.
Yes, I think some of the biggest challenges are getting over some of the mental roadblocks. Again, I want to be clear, this is not talking about a willpower issue or willpower failure, but more about limiting beliefs. And that kind of goes into psychology, psychosocial in terms of thoughts, but it's so important, especially in healthcare, to understand the mind and body connection. Because if we believe something, it becomes our reality. It's true. If we feel that we can't do it, then we can't. If we feel we can, then we can. And so sometimes I will dig with them a little bit and really get into the heart of why they feel they cannot do it. Is it a belief that deep down, I'm not good enough, or I've never succeeded at anything? Or again, is it that inner child that needs to be supported and told, hey, you can do this? Or do we need to think of alternate ways to get to our desired goal? Maybe they've never learned about meal prepping before. And this is a whole new idea. Can you meal prep and still have fresh food every day? Yes, because some people don't like to have leftovers, or have variety. Meal prepping doesn't have to be limited to broccoli and plain chicken breast. You can still have your cultural foods in a way that still support the plan to set the weight. So really get into kind of those beliefs. Then we look into, if it's, for example, another example, no time for exercise. Then we look at their day. Okay, how many hours are you on social media? How many hours on the television? If we can, shape some of those times, maybe we can, watch that Netflix clip while on the treadmill, or we can listen to the podcast while going for the walk, or we just mix it all together, or we dedicate it to the weekend. So we really kind of problem solve it to kind of get around some of the hurdles that my patients share.
I love those solutions for the patient. And what about family and friends? How can they support somebody who's on a weight loss journey?
I think that's great. I think if when I have family and friends who want to support, that's a huge win because many times they're not. They're used to the person being who they are because that's how it fits into their particular part of the world. They're used to their sister always being overweight and they're being the thin one. So how do they handle that quote competition now? So I think having someone who's supportive is great because then now if we're making the meal changes, the whole family's making the meal changes. If we're going, to go for a walk, the whole family's going for a walk. If we're going to sign up for the neighborhood 5K, we're all doing it together. So it's really just the other person doing their own healthcare journey or their own fitness journey and just doing things together with the person who's obese.
Dr. Josya, we're actually at the end of our time. It goes so quickly. Thank
Yes.
you so much for your wisdom, your knowledge, and your care. I sense your genuine concern for your patients. Where can a patient find you if they want to see Dr. Josya Charles Laurent? Where would they find you? How would they get in
Sure.
touch with
If they want to see me as a patient, I am actually based in Homestead. So if you go to chisouthfl.org, that's for CHI South Florida, and you go to our locations, you can just set an appointment there. You can actually call or do it online to set an appointment to come and see me at our Homestead location.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody that is watching. Thank you for joining us on Black Health. Again, we are sponsored by the Health Foundation of South Florida. Thank you to the National Institute of Health for the slides that we showed today. Thank you to all of you who join us on Black Health on a regular basis. You can find me on IG, Instagram at Black Health Show, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.